Hi, my name is Brendan Smith. I'm the Arts and Humanities Coordinator for the City of Takoma Park, and I want to welcome you all to this special poetry reading called Voices of Woodlawn. And the poets and their harmonica player will introduce themselves shortly. I just want to tell you a little bit about our Takoma Park Arts Cultural Series. We used to have all our events in the Takoma Park Community Center, but we've had to shift online where we are doing poetry readings, film screenings, concerts, and other events. So you can catch up on those and also former events on our YouTube channel by going to tacomaparknd.gov/arts. So we hope you can catch some of those other events. We'll also be putting this reading on our YouTube channel for if you have any friends or other folks who couldn't see it live tonight. Now I'm going to hand things over for another brief intro to Takoma Park Poet Laureate Kathleen O'Toole. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks, Brendan. Welcome, everyone. I just want to offer my word of welcome to this wonderful ensemble. Some of you who are longtime Takoma Park Arts attendees, way back when we were in person at the community center, may remember that last year we began to mix our regular third Thursday poetry readings with some themed readings. So when Hiram Larew brought to Brendan this idea to bring the voices of Woodlawn, music, poetry, and visual arts to us, we thought this would fit nicely into our regular schedule. And I am especially happy that this gives us an opportunity to continue to interrogate our local history in the context of the racial reckoning and the invitation to all of us to examine our local histories and our personal histories in the light of our current local and national challenges. So welcome. I'm going to turn it over to this ensemble, and we hope you'll enjoy this evening and be with us for future events. Thanks.
I was just going to add one other thing. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button, and you can click on that. It can serve as a chat function if you want to say, you know, I like that poem or anything else. You can also use it to ask a question, and we'll have a Q&A at the end of the reading. So we hope you all stick around for that. Great. Now I'll hand things over. Thanks again for coming.
Good evening. To God be the glory. Welcome to Voices of Woodlawn, featuring poets Diane Wilbon Parks, Dr. Hiram Larew, Patrick Washington, yours truly, Lady Di, and on harmonica, poet Cliff Bernier. We hope to enlighten you with poetry from our hearts.
This poem is titled Vista Blur. Clouds of branches uneven were, as smoke became windows or lingering hams. With these thin voices in sad binds as I walk up, yes, I begin to almost hear their echoes of what was, but is still blurred. What happened here? These voices that precious the lawn sweeps now, across vistas of yearnings that river my overs, that hide in the corners, their cries for freedom so wanted, with these views of sunrises and mist that hope prayed for and gathered about. These views that are gone now, that are just barely and blurred blue. I can almost hear small stitches of accents, sweet as the oaks, voices that were here when abiding was tobacco and corn, when poorly was sadly these riches. Yes, all of my hoops are flung widely across these skins of years. What happened here? Around me and by me and through me. These forked tines of land love and shame. Cuffs that sob in their rust, or ropes frayed, or gilded mirrors of my memory's me. The full field of sorrows from those times that have sprouted but are buried so deep down inside me. The scars or gasps or flames inside souls like silent prayers or arrows through, all of them ask, what happened here? From my then that was and our still is now, this evil, holy aftertell.
The title of this poem is Reclamation. I am here to interpret the life of the enslaved. I am here to discover what was and what was not. I am here to carry your voice in my hand, hold it up to the sky, where your voice will open itself, will speak words into mine. From the fields to the bricks, to the compounding metal shovels, digging inside my hand, your hands, your stories, without words, without songs, no records, no birth dates, no birthdays, no names, no family history, not one surname, not one house or frame of any of the 91 enslaved people at Woodlawn. There's an ancestor inside me, waving smoke signals, writing unchained words, telling me stories written from rice, from fields, from laboring, from plantations, history planted in fields, then washed by rain, harvested by interpreters. There is a deepening rising in the voice of old, in the voice of the ancestors, voices leaning up from sleeping bones. The doors are tilted from the other side to reclaim what was lost. Come, I can hear your echoes. Come, I can feel you breathing inside me. Come, I will hold your heavy hands of callus, of mud. I hear the voices of your shadows sliding in between forbidden doors. The latch is removed. Come in. The ancestors are present in me and my bones. They rattle with their skeletons. We are here to reclaim what history has lost. It is my wish for those 6 chimneys to breathe you out and reveal your 91 names, where you will glisten in sunlight and become more than an interpretation.
"400 years of Black and brilliance. We have to remember heroic triumph, not just unmerciful terror. We must remember from whence we've come, a mighty remembrance, a tolerant temperament we must never, ever forget. Remember, God has brought us a mighty long way. Oh yes, ways out of no way. Tears flow. We must know the best is yet to come. Do not forget goodness of God. God wakes us with a daily mission. Document it, written and oral. Trailblazers pave way, break glass ceilings. Elders and ancestors, oh so brave. Wondering if I could have lived through it. Run with perseverance. Be determined. No, God will never leave or forsake us. We thank God many stood. Walk in brilliance. It is worth it. Put in extra efforts. We have a mighty work to do. Embrace it. Read, recover, restore. Remember God. Remember your maker. Do not feel lost. Sankofa, look back, fetch, bring forth our spirits. Serve, vote.
This poem is entitled First Walk. I am not being led through these genteel halls, I'm being pushed. Each threshold crossed feels like praise is being forced through fearful throats. The words of our guide ease out with reverence, as if the echo from these walls could actually slap you. And as they deliver their careful sermon, I wonder, was the Lord ever inside here? The wood smells of elegant care and surfaces so polished that any particles daring to show up will undoubtedly slide off to the floor. After all, we are not here to see dirt, are we? Like a troublesome teen, I stand in places longer than I should, reach for delicate things I know I shouldn't, and nothing happens to me. This tour, though informative, ignored certain queries. Are the brick and mortar walls thick enough to muffle the moans of those outside? Did they ever use the same cross-stitched sewing style from these beautiful pillows to close the skin of the disobedient? I walked to the glorious front entrance, and after 200 years, the Corinthian marble at the door still looks as if each slab had been carefully laid there by angelic hands, and they had. One more question, ma'am. Did the masters of Woodlawn ever realize just how close they were to God?
Unmute Hiram.
I'm sorry. This piece kind of previews the notion that we'll have a chance towards the end of the presentation to visit with any and all, with any questions that you might have, reactions, thoughts you might have about the presentation, because this piece is less about writing while I was at Woodlawn and more about writing with these other poets about Woodlawn. It's titled Bells. Together, we are so wonderfully different, these four bells of us. Each our very own sound, each distinctly tuned to this world of need, in and through our ringing words of witness, our ready bells, eager each to tell the story of stories never told at all. Hear the bolding bells held high up overhead, clanging crisp with concerns of anger. And listen as much to our heart-held bells that echo years of questions full of whys and hows. Then hear and hear again the gonging bells for our history's waking and for our every need to listen to them. To these day, dawn, nighttime, beyonding bells, to these won't be silent ever again, shining, glistening bells. Listen to these voices joined, to these voices so full that we almost can't, to these voices so sure that yes, indeed, we always will. Listen to these waiting bells in every one of us. May they ring through us like tomorrow.
The title of my poem is Our Marriage. Just give you just a little bit of background. This poem I actually wrote when I was at Woodlawn. And there was so much happening in me with this poem. And the title of this poem is Our Marriage. And that would be the marriage of myself to the enslaved. I could feel them as I was sitting in this blue room. You could feel their presence. So again, the title of this poem is Our Marriage. These unevenly divided halves will never fit into the hunting whole. There will always be a thirst to know more, a drip that will never go away, that will eventually fill this cup of what only can be imagined. The sound of teeth clenching, the voice of hands being ripped away, the tearing pitch of wailing's loss. Who will carry the burden to rewrite what has been left out? A shattered, distorted truth that keeps looking back at the gaping holes that refuse the contributions of the enslaved. I stopped to breathe. I paused to adjust my light, to write what I don't know. This hand will write you, the enslaved, counter clockwise. I am afraid of losing you again to these, my words, that may not resemble you. They may leave you dead again. Even in this marriage of us, right now, I search for you in the daunting ache of my skin, in the simmering flow of my blood, my shoulders heavy with the responsibility of prying open Woodlawn's walls, its lungs, its weeping organs, peeling back layers of paint, of skin, of ghosts, interpreting loss and lost. I have to unbuckle this whole damn room of longings that swells of its past, of its brown and black shadows. I imagine your dark brown eyes in this room. It's the only thing that takes up the most space, besides knowing that the dead are here. I am married to your ghost. Thank you.
Crepe myrtle for me. Magenta magical centerfold, swaying in hot pink balmy breeze. Like soothing zephyr, my heart appeased. Biggest crepe myrtle I have ever seen. A powerhouse of comfort unforeseen. At second glance, two trees united, standing tall, stretched across plantation's grounds in middle of manicured lawns. A grand decoration realization hits me. My imagination caught hold of me, imagining what slaves actually encountered, being tortured, hung, separated from family, absent from love, long hours of labor with no pay. Crepe myrtle temporarily comforts, distracts what my ancestors really went through. Sad, so sad, racism is still king. Sad, so sad, oppression is still alive. Sadder than sad, some do not realize, refuse to recognize. We need to step up, teach our children our history, press forward to equal rights, equal pay, respect, and democracy. Never give up fight. Freedom ain't free. True, I'm no better than anybody. Nobody is any better than me. Thank you, Crepe Myrtle, for unity and comfort of standing together under branches of your spectacular tree.
This next poem is entitled Curved Mirror, The Signal. Yes, sir. How may I be of service? Would you like another man? See, I learned quickly. Never got hit once. Seen enough overseers erupt wrath all over Negroes who stepped out of place or maybe just stood too tall. Still carry their ash in my pockets to remind me. Shook their fragments out of my head, got myself straight. Now, I wear the best clothes, eat only the best food. I've been crowned the most blessed of all the cursed in 2,000 acres, so I just stand here, ears and eyes, body with no mouth until addressed. My willingness to please and posture places me at the head of the table. I got good at counting how many times they lift their cups to drink. 4 sips, then I step out. If the guest knocks their tea to the floor, I'm gonna make sure my apology swoops into the room before my body ever does. This damn Earl Grey been misbehaving all week, and the teacup might have jumped. I stand in perfect stillness, racing for favor, eyes holding every curve of the butler's mirror, searching for some sign of life. I don't know what it's like to be called a man, but I know I'm closer than I was yesterday, so it's man. Yes, sir, please let me get that for you.
That is Voices of Woodlawn, a program of poetry about the silenced, erased slave community of 90 who served 9 whites at the historic Woodlawn Plantation Estate in Fairfax, Virginia. Patrick Washington has been kind enough to agree to facilitate our discussion. And Patrick, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the chat room, but there are already a couple of questions there, so I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, okay, I have not looked at the questions, so and I'm kind of scared to switch over while I speak to everyone. Thank you all for having us. As you may have observed as we've been speaking and reading the beautiful work from Miss Diane Wilbon Parks. So we want to thank you for supplying those striking works of art. Let me take a look at some of the Q&A here. Okay. Do you feel your experiences at Woodlawn created a newness in you or awakened an awareness of their ancestors through you? Okay, sorry, I froze while I was reading that. So anyone want to jump in with that?
I most definitely had an awakening, and the poems just flooded. That's all I wanted to write after I was there. The poem that I read, the last poem, Crepe Myrtle, that was one of the first poems. It wasn't the very first that I wrote, but I think while I was there, I started and almost completed 3 poems. And it's been a great awareness, some that I've had, a lot that I didn't know, and I plan to go back again. I could feel and hear the words that I've shared with you from our ancestors, telling us what we need to do, how they got by.
Patrick, I was going to add to that as well. I tell you, it was an amazing experience. And there was certainly some resistance in going to the plantation because you just don't know what emotions that will come up. It was a little bit, I was a little bit hesitant, but as we approached Woodlawn, I can tell you, being there, it was completely different. I am from Georgia, and so I've passed many plantations on my way to Georgia. I've seen cotton fields, but nothing felt like that. That was an experience that I shared with with you all that is still with me. It still hasn't left. So the awareness is very strong and it's very intentional. And like Lady Di said, there is a voice from our ancestors that speak and will not lay to rest. They are very much active, these voices. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a real good thing. So I'm appreciative for it.
Yeah, as far as, any feeling or emotions of newness or recognizing the ancestors, I mean, I went in, I went in raw. I went in expecting to be frustrated, expecting to be angry, and I think that's why I had to make several visits back, because I think returning was essential to the process of, grievance, acknowledgement, reconciliation, all of those things. So it wasn't all going to happen at once, and I knew I was going to be upset initially. So, that's why that first piece came out so, with so much attitude. I wasn't really looking for, the appreciation. I wasn't trying to, notice, the beauty or the elegance of everything, because I was coming in knowing what really happened. I came in really frustrated. So I'm glad that I came back. So, acknowledgement of the ancestors. And actually, I want to say that it was important for me to be angry, because, this wasn't a glorious visit. This wasn't something, and this wasn't a glorious experience for anyone, in that regard. So I think it was important for me to just let all that out when it happened, and then come back and experience the other emotions.
And for me, as a white male, the one word I would use in trying to describe what was going through my mind the entire time was reckoning. Kathleen mentioned this early on. How to reckon what, the line that I use in one poem is, what happened here, with its pain, its tragedy, its history, and especially knowing that so much of the legacy of that time still is with us. And so trying to kind of reconcile the past with the present, that was also powerful. And having Diane, Lady Di, Patrick there to voice their, as Patrick just said, raw emotions and experiences was incredibly eye-opening to me as well. So to answer Sister Joy's question, and from my perspective, yes, it did lead to a lot of new insights.
Do we have another question?
Sorry, I was muted. So Diane, question for you.
Yes.
The artwork, was it inspired by the written works, or did it all come from the visual experience and the emotional experience of being in that space, or did it?
Well, if you look at some of the artwork that came from the Woodlawn collection, I would have to say that my art resembles poetry, and sometimes my poetry resembles art. I can truly tell you that the artwork that came up out of me, especially the one that people most often see, which is the one that's on the flyer, it is called Royalty. And when I'm just taking that particular piece for instance, when I thought about this particular piece, I thought about all of my ancestors, though they appear to be slaves to these masters, they were royalty. That's how I saw them. When I think about them bending their backs in the field and picking cotton, I think about the fact that these were warriors, these were queens and kings. So in that particular art piece, that artwork, I have identified these African people as royalty, as queens and kings. So there is one that there's one piece of art that when Hiram was reading, it's yellow with it looks animalistic. That was rage for me. And then the one that's bloodline, that was all a lot of rage. As you were saying, Patrick, raw, frustration, all of those emotions that are clearly, you're going to experience that. And there's no way around it. And so I put it on canvas or on paper, if you will. And yes, so much came out of Woodlawn, both written and artistically, visually defined. So I hope I answered the question.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. And I can see it, you know, some pieces, they seem to have come, some pieces go like perfectly with the poems that we've been doing. So it feels like they, I'm sure these pieces kind of happened over a period of time. So maybe as the words were coming, then the art, the visuals kind of came along with it, or so.
Well, actually, Patrick, there's no poem in my opinion, even though they segue really nicely. I kind of see them separate, but they're also a part. So because, like I said, my poetry is art and my art is poetry. So, yeah.
Nice, nice. So question, maybe Hiram can probably answer this one better than everybody else. Someone asked, does Woodlawn do anything to remember or acknowledge the 90 lives, that were there?
Yeah, that I just have to say that question was asked by my sister, which is terrific.
Oh,
Appreciate
okay.
that, Liz. Yeah. My guess is, or my hunch is, my sense is, they're wanting to acknowledge more fully, but they're struggling with that. What do I mean by that? Well, as was mentioned right up front, there's virtually no written record of any kind of these slaves. I believe their first names, as Diane said in one of her poems, no surnames, no last names, just first names of some of them are listed in an inventory book. They don't know where they lived on the estate plantation. They just don't know much about them. And so to try to recreate that life, that community is pretty darn difficult. Other historic estates, by the way, Woodlawn is not the only historic plantation estate in the US that was built by, maintained by, served by enslaved. Other estates have conducted archaeological digs to literally find where the enslaved community lived on the property. Woodlawn has not yet done that. I don't know if it intends to or not. So I'd say that they're waking up to that history. I think it's also honest to say that there's a long way to go to reconcile it and acknowledge it.
Okay. Someone asked, was our tour the typical, a led tour, or were we able to kind of get out and wander on our own? Anybody want to answer that one?
I'll say something.
Okay.
I wanted to say that in the beginning of the very beginning of the tour, it was like your usual tour. There was a guide, and it seemed as if it was praise of the owners, you know, and just a couple of words that were said in the initial tour. I said, I can't do the tour. Let me go and just go and write what I'm feeling right now. So I actually did not take the tour. I went and I wrote Something's Come Over Me. That's another poem that came. That was the first one. So I would leave it up to Diane and Patrick, because they both were, I would say, brave. That's brave, because I was feeling a little weak and saddened and emotional, and I couldn't do the tour.
I remember that. I do recall you were quite vocal in
I didn't know I was vocal. I was so out of it. I left.
I mean, you weren't rude by any stretch,
Okay.
but you know,
That's
you made
good.
it known that, you know what, I don't think I'm going to do this, and I'm
Okay.
going to go this way. I remember that. Yeah, I definitely respected that. And I've already said my piece. You know, that's why I did the tour, and that's also why I came back. You know, my subsequent returns, I just went out on my own. I wandered around and, you know, just went wherever the spirit led me. So I pulled, you know, a Lady Di when I came back. So.
Well, let me say, the invitation for us to come out, it wasn't a regular tour. We were invited by Hiram and, you know, the writer's residency that he had there. And so it was different. We had an opportunity to stay there, to have lunch there, as well as to take the tour. And Patrick and I we were both brave enough to do it, but at some point it became frustrating to him, and it became frustrating to me, because he and I both asked a couple of questions. And one of the questions was, they talked about the architect that talked in long sentences about the architect, but never referenced the work of like the marble porch, and never considered that the enslaved did the work, put the bricks there. So some of it became very concerning. That's the best word I can use right now, concerning.
I agree. But here's the cool thing, and I again, my thanks to Hiram for even, you know, having the heart to, you know, to reach out to us and invite us. But now this is the question to everyone. Now that we've done this, if you could invite another artist to have the same experience, can you think of who that might be? And this doesn't have to be a poet. I mean, I'm thinking different things. I'm thinking musicians. I'm thinking visual artists. I think there was, and Hiram, maybe you can help me out. Isn't there wasn't there a program or some sort of presentation where furniture was kind of remixed?
Yeah. Yeah, and they also have, there at Woodlawn, they also celebrate needlework quite a bit. So there was that artwork. It might also be kind of cool, Patrick, to ask that very good question you've just asked of Cliff, as well as a musician and as a poet.
That's right. I'm sorry, Cliff also. Yeah. So that's for everyone. Who might you invite for that same experience?
Well, I think I think inviting in a musician would be an excellent guest to bring, because you know, music is a direct expression of emotion, and if you tap into the feelings of what happened there, you're going to get some really powerful music, and it's going to come out in ways that maybe the musician didn't expect. There's the whole tradition of the blues that came out of places like that, the plantations, the fields, the call and response songs of their African ancestors. And so that half of Western music is built on that, blues and jazz, and that's so bring a blues musician, bring a jazz musician who are already familiar with that, the vocabulary of those feelings, and I think you'll get some really powerful music.
Oh wow, yeah, that would be terrific. Anybody else?
I would extend the invitation to some other poets, and other than Black, to see what they would feel or their experience, because our experiences, the three of us, were similar. But I like to see, and I'm going to put one of my number one poet on the spot, and that's our Maryland State Poet Laureate. I'd like to see what she would write. I'd like to see and hear, because she's so sweet, and I just want to see what she would get, what kind of feeling she would have being there.
It's Grace Cavallari. Yeah.
I didn't say her name, but I saw her in the participants, and she says, that lady died. She's always putting me on the spot because I know she can handle it.
You know, I would love to see artists, some visual artists there as well. And like Patrick's group, some of the youth poets, and certainly the youth poet laureate. These, you know, I've seen them perform, and their poetry is so already emotional and is so well connected. And I would love to see how that pans out, to have those youths come in and just kind of do a tour and do some writing to that.
That's a wonderful idea. That's a wonderful idea, and I am going to say it on record. I plan on doing that. That would be terrific.
That's great.
Yeah. Yes.
And
yes.
I plan on having another tour, and to take some people with me, and have already spoken to some people that said that they would like to be included in that tour, in that trip. But you know, we got to wait. We have to wait. I don't want to do it on the safe distance thing. Mm-hmm. I want to do it when God lifts this and blows it all away.
You know, Patrick, it's kind of cool too that each one of us have said we'd like to bring kind of a different type of art to the cause, and I think that's the key point. This history is deep, dark, painful, amazing enough that I think it kind of requires that all arts be brought to bear, all voices and all arts. I could just as easily see a wonderful dance performance evoking the spirits of those who lived there, how that powerfully could be done. A videographer with a keen eye, she could do a wonderful job of stitching a story together. So I think, you know, the opportunity, that the possibilities are kind of endless. And as I'll say again, it wouldn't have to be just at Woodlawn, which, by the way, we failed to mention early on, was built on property owned by a gentleman named George Washington. So it's a very historic, it's right across the Potomac River from Mount Vernon, where he lived. So it's that property, absolutely, but it's all sorts of other properties, i.e. history around us, especially here on the East Coast, but really in the States, in the US.
Oh, and that leads me to another question that our Prince George's County Poet Laureate, Sister Joy, asked, and she mentioned that there are other properties, other plantations, essentially, with the similar histories, like Monticello, Snow Hill, Oxon Hill Manor, and the question is, would we, would we possibly go there? Take our, take this same experience to those places, and would we expect different results, or what? What do we imagine would happen, with such an experience at a different property?
One thing I think about that is that we would need background of that particular plantation. Woodlawn provided a lot for us, history that they wanted to share while we were there, feeling from what they were sharing. So I think we would need some an invitation and some more information from the plantation that we decide to choose if we went to another one. I really want to go back to Woodlawn now. I'm stronger than I was on that day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stronger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like what you just mentioned about the histories, being offered. The thing about Woodlawn was that it offered a lot for the imagination, because there was no history
Right.
of the enslaved people that were there. So it was easy for us to kind of go wherever our minds, would take us. Our minds and
Yes.
hearts, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so if we show up at, say Snow Hill or Oxon Hill Manor, and they're like, hey, here's a list of all our, and then they give us more information, then, that's a different story.
Well, I want to add to that. I was not aware, and I was telling Hiram that I live near a plantation, and actually probably am living on part of what was a plantation. And it is Fairview Manor. It's right up the road. I mean, I could actually walk there. Didn't realize. Now they do have markers, and they still have slave houses that are still very close to what was called the main house. It is amazing. And, I kind of wanted to invite you all to just take a walk around that property.
That would be wonderful, Diane. I think these are terrific ideas for onward hard work that needs to be done. As we begin to close down this evening, I wondered if we could do two things. I wonder if we could invite Lady Di to close us here in just a moment with her poem about bricks, the bricks speaking to her. And as she prepares to do that, I think we all want to thank Brandon Brisford of the Takoma Park Arts Group and Kathleen O'Toole, the Poet Laureate of Takoma Park, for making this opportunity today, this evening here in the East Coast. And by the way, we've got colleagues watching this from as far away as around the other side of the world, Nepal, from the country of Nepal. So here in the East Coast, it's evening, early evening. We really want to thank Brandon and Kathleen for making all of this possible, and especially to all the folks who came on and attended and listened and asked wonderful questions. I'm hoping somebody will remember to save the chat so that we can capture all those good questions. But if it's okay with everyone else, I wondered if Lady Di could maybe close the evening with her terrific poem.
Well, I'm ready to do that. I just want to say that all the poets that are in the chat room or came to visit with us today are invited. So just contact one of us or contact me, and just keep in touch. You know, Brenda Bunting, I would love to see what you would have to say, and Felicia Scott, and also Sister Joy, and Martha. I saw Martha, the librarian. She's a poet. She's a storyteller, but I like to see what Martha would write. So here's my poem, and there's some other people there too, but we're running out of time. Bricks calling my name. Bricks, wondering what exactly you are saying to me. Each brick lines path to doorway of historic Woodlawn plantation mansion. Each brick handmade, each brick inlaid by hand, entwining around across 120 acres of land, leading to magical, mysterious wonder. Questions unanswered. Do we really want to know stories? Can we imagine all encountered? Dreams of our ancestors' sacrifice, dreams of their struggles, dreams of their horrid suffering. Suffering strengthens our endurance, confidently documents our legacy. Without a doubt, leave photos, writings, and poetry for our children to see, to share with their children and their children's children. History engraved like fossils in corner of our minds. Bricks are calling my name. Tell me, my brave ancestors, what else are they saying? And I wrote that on the plantation and dedicated it to Dr. Hiram G. Larew.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Lady Di. Thanks to everyone for coming this evening. And I don't know, Kathleen, if you want to come back invisible, and Brandon, if you're there, if you want to, turn your cameras back on. We thank everyone, and we'll turn it back to you, Brandon, if you have any closing comment.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for this. It's very powerful reading, and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure folks in the audience have too. So as I mentioned, if you're interested in seeing some of our other online events, go to tacomaparkmd.gov/arts. And Hiram, I believe you have another reading coming up. I don't know if you want to mention that.
We do. On November 1st, Sunday, November 1st, we'll be performing the program again. And if people are interested, they can email voicesofwoodlawn, all one phrase, voicesofwoodlawn@gmail.com.
And also this Saturday.
We'll have it on YouTube as well for people who want to watch it there. So Kathleen, if you wanted to say anything, and thank you all again.
Just a great thanks to all of you, and blessings on your continued work and words and your beautiful visual arts. I hope we're able to share this with many people as we go along, and invite others into your really important project. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you very much for everything.
Saturday, we have a program, the Poets of Excellence for Prince George's County. So 4 of us are here. Well, Sister Joy, Hiram, Diane, Bernardo, and myself. Poets of Excellence. So you need to, if you'd like to attend that, that will be a Zoom and you'll be able to attend it.
There's a lot of poetry going on. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
coming, everybody. I wish I could see you. I wish I could see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank
Sure,
you,
thank you
Brandon.
all.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Thanks, guys.
Kathleen.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Nice to meet you over the Zoom.
Right.